The way we're going to do it to kind of keep it a little bit, keep the conversation going, is I will have my staff here. Tara Malone, Jessica Mazia, Masako Hashimoto are going to field questions to the panel. So thank you and enjoy the panel.
So I guess I'll start. I'll kind of pose a question to the panel, and we'll each take turns doing so. If you can just maybe speak to the question for about a couple minutes, and then after we do a few rounds of questions, then we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions as well. So the first question is, how did you get started as a self-promoting entrepreneurial artist or musician?
That is a very long story. I always like to say that, and I teach here one day a week now, and I say this to all of my students, your career starts the day you decide to have one. It doesn't start the day you graduate. So if you wait till you graduate, it's going to take you even longer to establish all the networking and building yourself up, at least in my profession, as an artist. If you decide when you're 13 you want to be an artist, then start being an artist. And by artist, I mean a singer-songwriter, musician, all those kinds of things. So I guess in a nutshell, my story is that I started out as an opera major in college and realized that I kind of wanted something more. I switched to jazz studies, and that seemed really great for a little while, but it didn't seem real world enough to me. Part of being in the music business and being involved is to be flexible and well-rounded so that you can get more work. Meet more people, get more involved. So coming to Purchase as a studio composition major eventually was a great decision for me, even though it was in my hometown. I kind of made sense of the fact that I could be in the city and start working and things like that. And I was interning at a studio when I was here, which was the first eye-opening experience for me in terms of getting to network. I was getting to meet musicians who had been doing this already for 25 years. And it was really cool to sort of see how they had established themselves and try to build myself up in a similar way. I kind of got jump-started a lot quicker than a lot of people did, being that I was interning and surrounding myself with a lot of really talented people who saw talent in me and decided to start shopping me to major labels when I was 19 years old. So I was at Purchase and going to class and then going down to Atlantic Records or Epic or all these other labels and doing showcases, in the afternoons after class. That sort of ran its course a bit and helped to continue jump-starting my career to where it is today, which is a professional sideman. I go out and play keys for people. I play guitar, I play mandolin, I play ukulele. I will learn any instrument you pay me enough money to learn. I sing backup for other people, and that also helps to fund my art, which is my music, which is my labor of love. And I sort of made a decision for myself that becoming a rock star wasn't, not that it's not realistic, but it would be fulfilling, but it would also be fulfilling for me to make a living being able to make music. And I think coming to terms with that idea opened me up more to a lot more opportunities. I was willing to step out of my comfort zone of being an artist and do my art for other people. To the point where I'm leaving for tour in a week and a half to go out with Crystal Bowersox for 2.5 weeks, playing keys for her. I'm tour managing A Great Big World, which is really awesome. My songwriting partner, who's not here today, plays bass for them, and he would say kind of a similar thing, limiting yourself to the idea of what your major here describes of you. If you're classical, if you're opera, if you're jazz, if you're a theater major, if you're any sort of art like that, if you sort of go, well, that's specifically what I have to do, you're not necessarily going to make it in this industry. You need to look outside of that basic education that you're receiving here and feel open enough to experiment and try other forms of music and take on those gigs and gain that experience. He was a jazz bass player here, master's performance, and he hasn't done any gigs that involve jazz since graduating. Now he's on tour with a band that has a #1 selling record. So,
And that's why he's not here today.
Which is why he's not here. He was supposed to be here, which is why I'm bringing him up. So I hope that kind of answers the question. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think I would echo what Rebecca's saying, that it's working for yourself it's sort of a mindset. You have to not wait. If you're the kind of person who's going to wait for your boss to tell you what to do, you know, or you're always waiting for other people to tell you when to make the next move, then you probably shouldn't be working for yourself. But if you're the kind of person who, I had a boss who once told me, like, ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission, which is kind of how I operate with all my clients. It's like, I just assume that what I'm doing is the right thing, and I'm acting in their best interests. And that really helps you sort of have the confidence to just go out there and do your own thing. Also, I would echo what you said about, you know, you need to be working now. You need to start now. I didn't go to my graduation because I was working on a deadline. I was doing a museum catalog that had to go out that day for a local museum, which I actually got the project through my community design class in the Art and Design Conservatory. So you just have to be working all the time. Work for your parents' friends. Do, you know, I'm a designer, so, you know, do websites for your parents' friends. Do projects for, you know, nonprofits in your community. Whatever you can do to build up a real portfolio, because when I was hiring designers at my last in-house job for entry-level positions, I didn't even interview people who only had schoolwork, because there's so much competition, and you know, you can always find somebody who has done, you know, posters for their friend's band or something else that's more real and that was actually produced. So as much real work as you can do as possible, you'll have a leg up over the competition.
Absolutely have to agree, like the major points that you guys went over. So I went to school for fine art, so I went as a photography major here. I graduated in 2007, and then I decided I wanted to go get my MFA because I wanted to be a professor. I thought being a professor would equal being able to have enough time to make my art. And I thought that's how I would work it out. So after I got my MFA, I tried to get a job, and you have to have all this experience first. So I got a job being a digital retoucher and a studio manager in the city. After about 3 months, I realized I didn't want to make anybody else's work ever again. I wanted to make my work. I wanted to make my things just work. So that's when I really did what, you do it. You just go and you do it. And I had the same problem that you were just talking about. So I had a fine art portfolio that I had been trying to perfect for, I guess, 6 years, right, of all my schooling. And that's all I had. And there were black and white prints, silver gelatin, film, black and white prints. Beautiful work, right? But I couldn't sell myself. So when I started my business, I got any job that I could possibly get. Sometimes I worked in trade just to build a new portfolio, a portfolio that I could actually get jobs with, which was just so key. And that's why I tell, I still am a teacher now, that's why I tell all my students who come through, you need to you can be a fine artist and you can be able to survive. You don't have to be a starting artist in any way, shape, or form, but you need to be prepared for the real world. You need to get jobs, you need to get out there, you really need to be a part of what that is.
I would just amend what I said, not to scare you all about, like, if you don't have stuff now. If you think you want to do your own thing at some point, but you're not ready or you don't have enough, freelance work right now, like, you can always go work somewhere in-house, build up a portfolio, and go break out on your own later. So the timing is flexible, but if you're ready to do it right now, then you have to be prepared.
If you're comfortable with it, prepare for it.
Okay. And also definitely, so if you don't know it, you learn it. If there's anything that you're going to leave here, people are not going to give you, they're not going to tell you how to do it. Like, you have to be able to teach yourself, and that was one of the biggest things that I learned in my first year of business. I read so many books. I brought a list just in case anybody is interested of the books that really, really helped me. But yeah, it's teaching yourself.
So the question was what led me to become an artistpreneur, right?
Yes.
Can I just see like who I'm talking to right now? What are you guys all in different arts conservatories? Are you guys all artists in arts conservatories? Is that kind of the group here? Like musicians, dancers, theater. So I'm talking to actual artists, right? How many arts management students are there here? Okay, cool. So I'm not an artist. So that makes me a little different than everybody else on this panel. I was an arts management major. I graduated in 2011. And like the rest of the people on the panel, I started working while I was in school. I was interning at BAM in Brooklyn. I was interning at New York Foundation for the Arts. I was interning with the school, the theater conservatory. And then I just started becoming an entrepreneur when I was here. I have a dance background, so at Culture Shock one year I noticed they had never had dance at Culture Shock, so it's like, okay, we're gonna have a huge like hip-hop dance show, break dance show in the middle of Culture Shock and not really tell anybody about it and just do it. So we did that. I started South Bay Cabaret here as my senior project, which we had right over there. So I started doing my own projects while I was already here. But I also was working for an institution at the same time. So when I graduated, I actually worked here as the company manager for my first year, and at the same time started a performing arts festival in Bushwick called the Vis-a-Vis Project, which was a 3-day DIY arts festival, music, dance, theater, spoken word, everything. And I just wanted to do something that was outside of an institution because it takes so long to work your way up. And my eventual goal is to curate in the performing arts, to be the programmer for something like BAM or a festival. And it takes so long to get to build up to that place because people are very protective of their jobs. So I just started doing my own thing. Just so I could curate, just so I could program. I just started doing it myself. I reached out to my community of artists that I had gone to school with because everyone around you, there's so many amazing artists that are around you right now, and when they graduate, they're going to become people on, Atlantic and people running their own graphic design companies. So I really continue to utilize the community of artists that are my alumni cohorts. So that's what I'm doing now. I also am managing a small emerging dance company, working with a collective in Brooklyn called the Creators Collective, and then I also right now work for Brick, producing shows at Brick in Fort Greene and producing Celebrate Brooklyn in the summer in Prospect Park. And that's me.
It's tough going last after all that because I don't want to necessarily echo all of those things, so I'll just, I guess, speak about how I came to do the things that I'm doing. While I was here, I was a dance major, and while I was here, there was a big complaint that the conservatories didn't get to collaborate a lot, and that it was really separate, that you had all these amazing artists in one place, but you never got to actually see their work or work with them, or unless you were doing a senior project. So I started a club that actually lasted 5 years after my graduation called For Arts, where we would put on multidiscipline shows 4 times a year. And we would use the PAC, we would use the DTL, we would use all sorts of different things. And that show actually got me my first curating gig, doing those shows here. And I think for me, the one thing that I think you really need to be an artistpreneur or to be successful is you need vision. You need a really clear vision, and everyone always asks, like, when did you know you wanted to be a dancer? Like, I never knew that I wanted to be a dancer. I always danced, people seemed to like me, watch me do it, I like to do it. But I knew that I wanted something that was fulfilling, and I knew for me I needed to be stimulated in lots of different areas. So when I got the job that kept me here, I worked overseas for 4 years before I continued dancing or stayed in New York. But I just volunteered my services. I used to write a lot. And I hadn't written in a while, so I approached my boss and said, there's this grant because I noticed in the city line item budget that there's extra surplus in education. This was in 2004, so it was when they had surplus in education for the city. And I said that if you let me write this grant, I will create a whole program for you, and I'll write my salary into it. So if we get it, I'll have a salary for myself, you'll have a new program. If I don't worry about it, I just want to try. And it worked, and it funded our company for over 5 years and had a whole new project. While I was curating at the Tank, which was my first job curating, I think it's just really important to be open and to not close yourself off to things. I still dance, I still teach, but I don't necessarily identify with any of those things. I'm really passionate about the arts, and any way that I can bring the arts to the forefront is something that I try to do. So through dancing, through teaching, through choreographing, I also run my own nonprofit, which is an art service organization. And I am an arts administrator as well. So I think really narrowing down what your strengths are and going for it. You know, you don't have to be defined as one thing. And last thought is to really work your network, and by that I mean let people know what you want. When I was here, I knew I wanted to dance for Kevin Wen, who had a company there. And I started on him freshman year, and sure enough, by senior year, I was in his company. Like, you have to let people know what you want, because they will think about you, but they're not mind readers. So I think it's that fine line between being pushy and just being persistent that I think is really important. I think that's it. Is that good?
You could actually, I will.